All right, everybody, this is take 2. I apologize if you watched the first video we sent out. There was a terrible echo, and come to find out, we had 2 microphones going. So, again, I need to get more experienced with what I'm doing, so I apologize. So if you looked for the first video and it's gone, it's because it was absolutely terrible. So we are doing take 2. That's why my kids are not in here on this one. They are actually getting ready for bed. Because like I said in the first video, we are airing this on Saturday because we are going to be at Miss Beulah's funeral tomorrow. And I know a lot of other people have that commitment as well. So I thought I would just do this real quick tonight. So we're just going to jump right in here. And we are finishing up Ruth chapter 3. And we're going to go with verses 14 through 18. And it says, "So she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. And he said, 'Let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor.' And he said, 'Bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out.' So she held it out, or so she held it. And he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, 'How did you fare, my daughter?' Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, 'These 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said to me, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law.' She replied, 'Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today.'" And that is how we end chapter 3. In verses 14, it tells us that Ruth did indeed spend the night with Boaz on the threshing floor. So, last week we left off the Devo of, did she stay? Did he kick her out? What happened? Well, we see in verse 14, she did indeed stay the entire night. Nothing happened, but Boaz protected her. Boaz could have sent her off. Boaz could have told her to go back home, knowing it would be very dangerous, but he tells her to stay. This verse also tells us that Boaz sent Ruth on her way before anyone could recognize her. Again, for her safety, for his safety. He is protecting his reputation as well. So he waits, and I picture my mind not really sun up, but just like light enough that you could see. And he tells her, go on, go on. And by the time she gets home, it is daylight. People would recognize her, but it's that time of day that people are going to start getting up and milling about and going about their day. So they wouldn't really think too much about her being out. Some may think, oh, it's odd that she's out at this time of the morning, but they're going to go on about their business because the day is getting started. Whereas if she would have stayed with Boaz until sunrise, his workers would have seen her, everybody would have seen her walking home, and everybody would have assumed that she was out with a man and had been doing things that she shouldn't have been doing. So for her safety and for his reputation, he didn't want any rumors started. He sent her on her way, and he sent her home. And then we see in verse 15 that before she leaves, Boaz gives her 6 measures of barley. Now, we are not exactly sure how much 6 measures is, but it is a significant amount. Boaz did this as a parting gift. He did this, and also I think, again, it's protection. It's taking care of her, because as we've seen in the previous chapters, he said he would take care of her. He's her protector. So he is sending her off with this. And he also told her, I will not rest until this matter is over. So here we see again that he is giving her his word. He is going to make things right. He is on her side. Some think that this was a promise to Ruth, so that Boaz would plan the marriage in good faith, in the meantime, good behavior. And what this reminds me of is our engagement. Our engagement time. When we put on that engagement ring, we are saying, I promise to be yours. I'm not going to go look for anybody else. You're the one that I want to marry. You're the one I want to be with. So, we're going to stop looking. I am committed to somebody. And that's what I think this is when he says that he's going to have good behavior, meaning he's not going to go off and be with another woman. He's not going to go off and get another wife. He's going to do what he told Ruth he would do. And again, this was a promise to Ruth that Boaz was to keep. Now, he's promised to protect her. He's promised that she could come get all the food she wanted out of his field. All those promises he's kept. Again, he makes another one to her. He didn't have to take her. He did not have to marry her. He could have called her crazy. He could have sent her on her way. He could have kicked her out of the threshing floor. He could have got her in trouble for being there, sneaking up on him, but he didn't. Instead, he promises to take care of her. He lets her spend the night, then he sends her home, and not home empty-handed. He sends her home with a promise. So now it's up to Ruth to trust Boaz and that he's going to do all that he said he would do. Okay, Ruth has upheld her bargain, her end of the bargain. She has done everything that she has said she was going to do, and so has Boaz. So right now, there's no reason for Ruth not to trust Boaz, but that's all she's leaving with. She is leaving with his word. Then in verse 16, we see that Ruth made it home. She made it home safe. She was not harmed. And of course, Naomi was waiting on her. And like we have talked about in the past devotionals, here's Naomi playing that mom figure oh so well. She's up. She's waiting. As soon as Ruth walks in the door, Ruth gets home. And as soon as the door opens, the questions start firing. Kind of like we do today. If our kids go out somewhere, or even our husbands go out somewhere, or our friends, or whoever, our parents, and they come in, well, did you find what you were looking for? Did you see so-and-so? Did you have a good trip? Did you have a good time? Are you going to go back again? Did anything go wrong? Did somebody say, it was rapid fire, and I just thought it was funny, or it kind of tickled me, reminded me, this mom figure. Is that not what moms do? When your child comes home, or when anybody comes home, we even do it if they go to school, or if they go to work, and you call your spouse, or you call your parents, or whoever, well, how'd your day go? It just reminds me of that mother figure. And of course, we see in verse 16 that Naomi says, how did it go? What did he say? And in verse 18, we see that Naomi tells Ruth that the matter will be settled today. That day, the matter will be settled. How did she know that? And again, this is all in God's timing. We see God's timing in all of this. And that's where we leave it. That's where chapter 3 ends. We will find out in chapter 4 the rest of the story. But right now, at the end of this chapter, it is cut off. And we end this chapter wondering, hey, did Naomi's plan work? Will there be a wedding? Will Boaz keep his word? Will he do what he says he will do? Will he take care of that matter? Will the other redeemer let Ruth go? We're left with a lot of questions. There's no answers to this chapter. It's kind of like what you would say a cliffhanger is in the book. You want to keep reading. You want to know what's next. And so next week we will do the first 12 verses of chapter 4. And right now, all we're left to do is wait. Ruth and Naomi, all they can do is just wait. And that is probably the hardest part of this story yet. Yes, it was risky to have Ruth go to see Boaz. It's risky to have Ruth in Boaz's fields gleaning. It was risky to come back to town. And yes, those are hard to come back home when you've been gone for so long, especially when you don't have your husband and your kids. But now they've done everything and they have to wait. And I know for a lot of us, waiting is the most painful thing. You tell somebody to wait and you think that it is the end of the world, especially if you tell my 2 children. If they ask for something and you don't get it right then, oh, the drama. Oh, the tantrums. Oh, we're throwing ourselves on the floor. Oh, I need it right now. Especially when it comes to lunchtime or dinner time. If I don't eat right now, I'm going to die. I'm so hungry. I can't tell you how many times I have heard that today. Mom, I'm starving. I need it right now. We're not good at waiting. Are we patient and satisfied knowing we have done all we could in a situation and then we leave it to God? So Ruth and Naomi know they've done all they can do. It's all in God's hands, and they wait. Or are we impatient, and we expect, we want, we demand an answer, a solution right then? Most of us are more like that. We should be more like Ruth and Naomi, and I've done all I can do. It's time for me to wait. It's in God's hands. God has his own timing. We all know that, but it is still very hard to accept that. But we have to accept it even though it is hard. We may not understand, but we know it's hard. And when I guess as I'm getting older, I see this more and more. But I've always heard this. We've all heard this, our whole lives. God has his own time and his own timing. Well, I thought, okay, well, that just means if I pray for something, then it may not happen that day, but it'll probably happen that week. Well, as I get older, it's like, okay, it didn't happen that day. It didn't happen that month. Better yet, it didn't happen that year. But I can look back now, and something that's answered this month may have been something I prayed for 6 years ago. Now, 6 years ago, it was, life-threatening, crucial. I had no answer right then, or so I thought. And God's answer was, be patient. Well, then 6 years passed, and we get this answer that we may have wanted, didn't want, but we had an answer. And sometimes it may not be as important as we thought it was 6 years ago. But were we patient in that 6 years? Or did we try to find a solution on our own? Did we just pray to God and demand an answer right then? I mean, we can demand all we want. God's not going to do it until he wants to do it, until he wants to give us an answer. But are we patient? Are we like Ruth and Naomi? And I think the last thing I want to talk about through this is we see God all through this book. We see God working, and we have to realize that even though we may not see it, God's working through us somehow, some way. Some ways we know, and some ways we don't know. But God worked through Naomi's concern for Ruth through her long-term security. So Naomi was trying to find someone that will take care of her. God was with them. God was with them when they traveled back home. God was with them when Ruth committed to being to Naomi for the rest of her life. God was working through them. God worked in Ruth's boldness to follow through Naomi's risky plan. She could have died. She could have been taken. Any a number of things could have happened. It could have turned out badly. God was with her. She was bold. She had to take a risk. She had to do it, but God was with her. God was there with Boaz's acceptance of Ruth's proposal. He was there. I don't want to say talked to Boaz, but he was in Boaz's life. Boaz believed in him, followed him, and so God worked through Boaz. And we will see that through the acceptance of Ruth's proposal to take care of her. And we see that in all three of these people, in all of the book of Ruth, chapter 1, 2, and 3, and I'm sure we'll see it in the end of verse 4, or chapter 4, we see that Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz is letting God guide them. They're not resisting God. They are letting things happen. They've done what they can do, what was in their power and their control. Now it's up to God. Do we do that? Do we allow God to work through us? Do we do what a Christian should do in situations, in life, in work, at home, with family, with friends, at church? Do we do what God calls us to do and then leave the rest to him? Are we a blessing to others? Do we help others? Do we let others see Christ through us? Or are we the opposite of that? When we accept God and let God guide us, then our faith will take over and it will help us move forward during that patient time, that waiting time. And we always have to remember that God is always on our side. Even on the worst days, the bad years, the bad months, whatever it is, God is always on our side. We just have to be patient. Sometimes it's not right when we think it should be. It's not the timing that we would want. I'm sure Naomi's timing, I'm sure she wanted Ruth to come in and say, yes, Boaz said he was going to marry me. We're getting married. Let's get started. That's not what happened. She was told to wait. Now, she did get an answer. Boaz told her it would be taken care of today, and Naomi told her that means it's going to be taken care of today. He sent you home with this barley. He sent you home with this words, these messages, and this is what it means. So they do have an answer, and I guess that made it a little bit easier to wait because they had a time frame, but still, it's still in God's timing. It's not going to happen unless God wants it to happen. So we just have to realize and be patient. And I think it's a great example of all three of them. Naomi has done all she can do. She has to throw her hands up and wait. Ruth has done everything she's been told to do. She has to throw her hands up and wait. Boaz is waiting on this other redeemer to see if he wants Ruth. If he doesn't, then Boaz can move forward. So right now, Boaz has to wait. We have to wait on an answer. So that's what I wanted you all to take away from this week's lesson. Like I said, I hope we will not be on tomorrow, obviously, because y'all are watching this tonight. And if you can't watch it tonight, you can watch it tomorrow if you need to, or during the week. As always, I appreciate you all watching, and I hope you have a great week. And I am really hoping, fingers crossed, that take 2 was a whole lot better than take 1. I'll see you all later.